to the Buy Box Bandits podcast.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Buy Box Bandits podcast. Today we have another awesome guest. We have Carlton himself. Where do I start? Founder of SellerAmp, guy I'm lucky to be partnered with to help grow SellerAmp, as well as great Twitter bio, learning and earning for 20 years on the internet, something along those lines and everything. So excited to learn about building Amazon software, selling on Amazon, your time as doing some affiliate market stuff back in the day and all that. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So you kind of want to take us back, how you originally got into making money online, and then we'll talk through all that, physically selling on Amazon, building the SaaS, all that kind of stuff.
Geez, that's quite a big subject. I'll do the sort of short version. Again, I've been making money online for about 20 years. So I've tried various different business models. Like, my background is sort of software development. So I was writing sort of financial systems and passport systems, actually. This is 20 odd years or over 20 years ago. But I got to the point where I was being paid quite a lot of money. And the only way out of it was actually setting up on my own. So I've always had that sort of like entrepreneurial background. Like, at school, I had like a tuck shop. I did magic shows as a kid and stuff like that. So I've always been into being my own boss as such. But I moved into software. Then, so to get out of that job, I started doing affiliate marketing and sort of various sort of technology websites. And I sort of developed software to help me with those businesses. So I was actually making money as an Amazon affiliate in the early 2000s and probably in the 90s, to be honest. Because Amazon were like the first company with an affiliate program. So I've got on board with that quite early on. And the affiliate program used to be good. Yeah, like nowadays, it's a whole different kettle of fish nowadays to make money out of an Amazon affiliate. But so I used to sort of do revenue that way. Then I had various websites, different technology sites. I had a few forums, I had a blog network, and all sorts of things, really. But then it's about 6 years ago, I started sort of moving from the Amazon affiliate to sort of start selling on Amazon. So I went down that route of, like a lot of people do, I started off with used books, selling DVDs that I had in the house. Then I started doing retail arbitrage without knowing it was called retail arbitrage. So then sort of very quickly from doing that, sort of proving the concept, I could make money out of it. I went from sort of doing it all in my kitchen to then to the living room. Then one of my friends lent me some space in his warehouse. Then within like 6 months, I'd got my own sort of warehouse and starting to employ staff. So and all the time I was doing this, I was developing my own software. I'd like my own inventory management software, own profit analysis and blah, blah, blah. And that's really where SaaS came about. One of the girls that I employed, she was my picker and the packer. She wanted to do more hours and she really enjoyed shopping. So taught her how to do like retail arbitrage. But whenever she was going to spend a large amount of money, she'd go on the phone to me before she'd actually make the payment. So that's when we sort of started developing software so she could use the software to check if a product is worth buying or not when she's out in the store without having to give me a call. So that's basically how SaaS began. So like a lot of the development is from personal experience. And like, I think because with software, it's expensive to get developed. Like once you start paying for developers are expensive. So by being able to develop it all in-house and having the experience as an Amazon seller and also as a software developer, it really helps. Which I think sort of makes us different to a lot of the competition out there where they'll be sort of paying other developers to actually create it. But unless you've actually done it yourself, like when I'm developing software now, you can sort of think of it from an Amazon seller's point of view. Like just like simple things, like in our like offers table where we show stock levels, making who's got the buy box bold, just because it makes sense. But like if you're a developer being told display the offers, they're not going to think of it like that. As it's like from a developer point of view, it doesn't make it, you don't understand the actual business model. But my passion's in both entrepreneurship and creating software. So I can mix the two together. That's great.
Yeah, what you're working on right now seems to be filling that pretty well. And for the audience, SellerAmp founded in 2019, right? You kind of want to talk about just because obviously you were the ideal customer, so it was easy to then build what made sense for you. But just kind of the origins of it launching originally, and then getting to where we are today with everything.
Yeah. Well, the way it actually started was I had a few manic Q4s And I just work, you know what it's like in Q4, you get so busy. And when I was had my own warehouse, I was packing a lot of boxes. And after the first or second Q4, come Christmas time, I was like dead on my feet. And like, the stress was immense. So what I wanted to do one year was like, instead of just sort of going sort of all guns blazing and then stopping, was like, yeah, I'll start developing a bit of software towards the end of it to sort of slow my brain down a little bit. And like, the first thing that we did was like international keeper charts, which, like, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from the UK originally. I'm living in the US now. But like in the UK, you have what's called like the EFN, which is like the European Fulfillment Network, where you can store your goods in one country, but it ships to all of the other countries in Europe. And like, obviously Amazon charge you higher fees. But so what we did was the international keeper charts. So basically, you'd go onto the Amazon page and it would display a keeper chart for all the European marketplaces. So we did that originally as a web app. And somebody asked us if we could do it as a Chrome extension. So I converted it into a Chrome extension. So basically all it would do, it would display half a dozen keeper charts. Then somebody else asked, can you just display it, do it as a mobile app? So okay, we'll do it as a mobile app as well. So they got a Chrome extension mobile app on the web app doing all of this. And then just as we were about to release the mobile app and just with a sort of a minimal charge, and then Keeper changed the rules and started charging for like normally, because Keeper used to be free for the extension, but then they started charging to get like the useful data, like the BSR history, which is really one of the most useful bits you can get from Keeper. So once they did that, it made our sort of a mobile app that we were going to charge for not very useful without a Keeper subscription. So then we actually moved all of that. That basically became the foundations for SaaS. So then SaaS, we've got like a developer's subscription with Keeper for getting Keeper data. We already had a profit calculator from some other software that we were doing, and we just merged it all together, and sort of SaaS was born, really.
So in your initial monologue there, you grazed over sort of a key point for our audience, and that's building this Amazon business aggressively at scale, right? And that's something that you kind of touched on in terms of starting an Amazon business, and in 6 months you're in a warehouse. So can you kind of dig into that specific piece? Because that's a piece that's going to drill home for our audience specifically, is because a lot of them are in that sort of aggressive growing phase.
Yeah. So when I started, I proved the concept by selling products I already had. So yeah, getting my books, having a DVD collection, like not the DVDs really happen anymore, but like selling DVDs. And I think my father-in-law bought me a golf rangefinder, which he thought I played golf. I never really did. So that's one of the first things that I sold. And it's like, because when I started, I was an Amazon affiliate for like 15 odd years. And like a lot of people, I didn't realize you could sell on Amazon as well. I was like an Amazon affiliate making money, that was great. But I never really looked at being a merchant. So once I've learned about that and learned more about the FBA, proving the concept first by selling sort of used goods, things that I had lying around. And it didn't take very long to prove the concept. But then doing the retail arbitrage, they had a store in the UK called Argos. I remember there's these massive Millennium Falcons I was buying. And they're actually a Walmart special. I think Walmart and Argos are either joint owners or whatever. But these Millennium Falcons were huge. And like in hindsight now, I was probably losing money on them because they were oversized. So certainly not making as much profit on them. And this is obviously before SaaS.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. I think we were buying these for about $20 and selling them for about $50. The fees would have been pretty high. But I remember going into the store to buy some, and they told me how much it would be. I think I had 5. Told me how much it would be. Like, it should be more than that. So I was actually querying them saying, you should be charging me more. So no, it's a 3 for 2 sale on. And I'm like, what? Holy, these were profitable before. So there's 3 for 2 sale, and like stupidly enough, I actually bought 5 of these things. So I was still, I was in profit if they were full price. But yeah, it was. So that's how I got into like retail arbitrage that way. You could see how you could scale it, but I wanted to get more into the wholesale where you could really scale it. So I did sort of the maths of whether is it worth going through a prep center or getting my own warehouse. Like fortunately, I knew somebody could lend me a bit of space initially, but I used the prep center a small amount. But once I worked out how much I wanted to be selling, the prep center just didn't make sense. It was going to be cheaper for me to get a warehouse and hire staff than it was to actually be paying 50p or whatever on every single product that went through a prep center. So the way I actually, because I did have money I could put into the business, which like with an Amazon business, like you do have to tie up cash. That is one of these sort of big drawbacks really with Amazon business. I think it's a great getting business to get started with, but it does tie up cash considerably. Yep. And like the way with my sort of business model, I diversified as much as I could, where I was doing retail arbitrage, I was also doing online and wholesale. And a lot of my wholesale was distributors end of line. So, and you'd be buying like end of line by the pallet, but it could take me up to 2 years to sell it. And like this is where I think the UK business model and the US business model are very different, where you can turn over things a lot faster in the US than you can in the UK, just purely because of the number of customers. So doing so it's just a really simple spreadsheet of whether what's going to be most profitable, getting staff or getting a prep center. Sorry, using prep center or getting a warehouse and staff. That took me down my own warehouse route. And like there's pros and cons to both of these. Like when I moved to the US, in the end I did a bit of a fire sale of all my old stock. I had to close my warehouse down. Like the staff had already left me. She'd like left a year before, so I didn't have to lay anybody off or anything like that. But if I'd been doing it via a prep center, I'd have been making less money, but I could have moved and kept the business running. So if I was going to do it again, I would probably go more the prep center route, just because it gives you more flexibility with your time. Because once you've got your own sort of warehouse, you've got ongoing costs. And you've got to make the most of it to make it worthwhile. Like if you've got a warehouse but you're only sort of buying things a couple of times a month, it isn't worth it. You've really got to be pushing volume through that space. And then once you've got staff, obviously staff are reliant on you for wages. But again, I know some people with warehouses that do really well. Warehouse just gives you the flexibility where you can actually buy stuff in bulk and hold on to it and drip feed it into Amazon rather than having to turn it over faster. So there's pros and cons to both. You've got to work out which business model is best for you. Like I think if I did it again, I'd probably go for a prep center route. But at the time, doing it with a warehouse was right for me.
Yeah, and I don't know how the situation is in the UK with like sales tax and others like that or whatever like that. But in the States, there's a big arbitrage using the prep centers in the tax-free locations and all that for those of us that aren't lucky enough to live in like Delaware, New Hampshire, Oregon, like that. It comes in. I'd say the conversation, Garrett and I have both gone through this, Warner as well, ourselves, right? Prep versus in-house. We've at this point in our lives, we've all gone the prep route and everything. But part of me kind of wants a warehouse in the future for like content and stuff. It'd be fun and everything like that. So back when you were getting started, was there FBA in the UK and was there still ungating stuff, or was it just all merchant and there was no ungating?
No, there's FBA and ungating, but not that far behind.
Well, yeah. Well, just in general, I think it was like 2015 or 2016 that ungating became a thing in the States, at least. Right. Something like that.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think as I grew my business, a lot of things I got engaged in automatically. So I didn't really ever have any issues with it. So whether that just sort of came in, I didn't notice. Like, I think it is much more difficult now where you have got to get ungated. But like, I know, I think it's every now and again I'd have to sort of apply. I don't think I ever had to submit an invoice to get ungated like you do now.
Nice. And so I started in 2019, about 3 years ago next month. And I had no idea how to get ungated, and really no one did. Everyone just said, sell as many books as you can. Eventually, magically, you'll get to. Luckily, it's all very out there and free and available. Now, I have a question in terms of UK versus US and everything. And we obviously have SellerAmp users worldwide and everything. But I get a lot of questions from people in Canada and the UK if they should start in their native marketplace or go to the US immediately. And I'm curious your thoughts on that.
It's a good question. If I go back to the sales tax one, because like in the UK, you don't have sales tax, you have VAT. But VAT is throughout the country. You don't have different tax rules in different parts of the UK. It's the one rule. Unless you get into anyway. Yeah, you have VAT, which is 20%. It's 20% on most things. Like you get a few things that you're exempt, like kids' clothes, some grocery, but generally speaking, it's 20%. So there's no sales tax. So like, if you're using a prep center, you aren't going to be able to save any money sort of tax-wise. But yeah, I think if you're in the US using a prep center in a state with no sales tax, that makes a hell of a lot of sense, because you could quite easily save the amount of money you're paying on the prep. You'd be saving in the sales tax you'd be paying if you're not in a sales tax free state. So yeah, US, I think if you're doing your own warehouse, ideally you don't want to be paying sales tax. I would use a prep center in the US.
Yeah, so, for at least the arbitrage model, definitely. That's
and some states are a lot higher than others, right? So it's a significant disadvantage when we're talking to different sellers across the country. You pointed out how you were purchasing from end of line wholesale accounts. Can you talk us through how you identified a potential account that you wanted, and then how you pursued that account?
I go to trade shows. So a big trade show in the UK called Autumn Fair, where you have thousands and thousands of different either distributors and wholesalers. So I'd go to those, approach the stands, and sort of find out that way. But you can also get like a black book of who's going to be exhibiting at these shows. So even if you don't attend, you can always sort of get the black book of who's going to be there, and then you've got a huge list of wholesalers you can go through.
Yeah. So starting to transition across your timeline, there was inevitably a decision where you had your business that was making X amount, but you had this idea to kind of transition that knowledge, that experience into software, right? Was that a difficult decision that you had to make, or did you kind of just over time shift your attention?
Like I was even when I was running my Amazon business, I had staff that were doing a lot of these sort of time intensive work. So I would be more doing like the business management side of it, the growth side of it, and then creating software and systems to actually run the business. So when I said I moved to the US just over 2 years ago, I still had some sort of stock in Amazon that I was selling. It took about a year or whatever to finally sort of sell out, and then every now and again Amazon would magically find some stock, which is always nice when that happens. So I wouldn't say it was a difficult transition, because it was a case of if I moved over here, setting up again, selling over here, or concentrating on software. And I moved over at exactly when COVID started. Like if I'd moved like a week later, I wouldn't have moved, because I wouldn't have been able to. So I think I was here for a week, went out for one meal, then lockdown hit. So if I wanted to sort of be selling, I couldn't go to any stores anyway.
Yeah.
So it did make it quite easy for me. For 6 months, I could really just focus on the software. So I don't know if that's really answered your question or not. Like selling on Amazon and creating software are two very different business models. Yeah, you've got some knowledge that you share. Like with any business that you do, like I think a lot of people now who are selling on Amazon, certainly if you're at your ages, this isn't going to be your first and it might be your first business, but it probably isn't going to be your last business.
Definitely, yeah.
But I think selling on Amazon is a fantastic stepping stone into different businesces. Like there's so many lessons that you'll learn from selling on Amazon that you can put into use later on in a different business. I think it's really good. But like certainly if you're doing like retail arbitrage, you don't want to be doing that for the rest of your life, going out to stores and buying stuff and shipping it.
Correct, yeah.
But like if you can create systems, put systems in place where you either employ people to do it, and then just learn from that business and see where it takes you.
Yeah, definitely. And I totally agree with all that stuff. Getting into the next point, you said when you were originally developing SaaS, you had people asking like, hey, what about this? Asking questions in terms of like getting different stuff added to it. Originally, how were you networking with people and meeting other sellers? Because I'm sure there was a lot less content back then, as well as being in the UK market, smaller than the US and all that.
A few sort of like physical sort of meetups I've gone to, and also like Facebook groups. I was more into Facebook groups than Twitter, and just getting to know people sort of via Facebook. Like, because when I sort of first started, like sort of go back before my Amazon days, when I was first started looking at making money online, I was like using different forums, and then I got into like forum software, creating add-ons for like different forums and things. But like one time I was on a forum, which I actually bought a forum from a guy in India for webmasters. And I remember like it's like a few thousand. I think it's a few $1,000s that I paid. Trying to transfer a few $1,000s then to somebody in India was an absolute nightmare. But it actually set him up for life when he actually got this money. Like, he created this forum when he was, I think he was probably a teenager. he created it. It got a fair few thousand people. I remember like buying it off him for a few thousand to help grow it. But then from there, I remember advertising. Basically, wanted to run a competition for somebody to to air, because what we were doing, we were offering web hosting. So we wanted to run different competitions. And I remember a guy contacted me saying, "Oh, if you get somebody to write a bit of software that could create scripts for tattoos, I will give the prize out like free web hosting for a year or whatever." So I remember chatting to this guy, and we ran the competition. Somebody won it, and anyway, the guy who actually sponsored it, I ended up going into business with him because he owned a lot of big tattoo forums. He had probably some of the biggest tattoo sites in the UK. I remember this translation site was actually used to translate a tattoo for like a famous footballer in the UK. It was like really weird, but it was just like, so I got to know him through the forums. Then we got into business together. We did various things. And it was all about networking with other people doing similar stuff. So yeah, I think I used to really enjoy Twitter. I'm trying to get back onto Twitter, but I was on Twitter like 10, 15 years ago. And then it moved on more onto Facebook, which I think my generation is a bit more on Facebook now, to be honest. But then Discord just drives me crazy because there's too many beeps and buzzes. But I would say the people you network with now, you just don't know what you'll be in the future. Because I've been in this business now for a long time. I know a lot of people that have been in one business or another, have dropped out, gone back to get the 9 to 5. I know other people that have sold out for millions or even billions of pounds to different companies. So once you get in, you start going to different networking events. Because I met the wife, I was in a networking event in San Diego, which is like a mastermind that was put together. And I remember I was chatting to somebody. It was held on the beach near San Diego. I remember chatting to him about all the different things he did. I won't go into the full stories, but he'd actually just sold out to Microsoft, one of his businesses. And I said, this is a stupid amount of money. But I said, yeah, that was my 5th business that I'd sold. And I'm like, damn. And what I find now is I'm seeing people now that I can see yeah, you're going to make it. You're going to do really well. You can just tell by people's personality and how they are. And they're thinking, yeah, I can see you having a 9 to 5 again at some point in the near future. And then some people are just completely surprised. They'll just blow it out of the park.
So you've been a part of the Amazon space for obviously quite some time. Can you compare and contrast starting on Amazon back in the day compared to starting on Amazon now, and just also the platform in general, how the platform has kind of changed and developed into what it is now that we know?
It's like most businesses, it's a moving landscape, but Seller Central, yeah, it's improved. There's been tweaks. I think at times some things are more difficult and some things are a lot easier. There's obviously more competition with prices coming down, but when I started out, there weren't anywhere near as many tools as there are nowadays. And there's a lot of training courses out there, and there's a lot of really good free information. One thing I do find, and I found this in a lot of different internet business spaces, where some of the trading people they'll start selling on Amazon, do a little bit of selling, and then release a training course. So, this is one of the reasons why I really like going with Miles, because he's actually walking the walk as such. It isn't just about selling training, he's actually doing the business. So he actually understands what he's teaching. But you certainly do get it out there where there'll be some people they'll just get the bare minimum that they need to get, and then they'll do a training course. So that's one thing that, and I found that's happening just for every single business model I've seen.
Yes, definitely, yeah.
Because the one thing I'm looking at the moment is getting into Airbnb, with buying properties and renting those out. And just looking at the Airbnb courses now, it just reminds you of the Amazon courses, the affiliate marketing courses, the SEO ones. But there's certainly a lot of good people out there. So I'm not sure that's really answered your question or not. I think I've probably gone off on a bit of a tangent.
No, you're all good. That's actually a running joke in our community, in our space, about kind of talking about the people who fake it till you make it, so to speak. But I think, Miles, you want to hit next?
Yeah, and what are your thoughts on the future of like Amazon in general, and then specifically like the arbitrage kind of wholesale side of it that we all exist in?
Um, I, I think different obstacles will come up. I think all of them will be overcome. And so I can't see the arbitrage model going away. Like end of the day, Amazon is very customer focused. I think Amazon cares more about its customers than it does about its sellers. So as long as you can be offering something to the customer, Amazon's going to be happy with it. There's going to be more IP claims. There's going to be more some sort of brands that you won't be able to sell. And one thing I'd always recommend to do is to diversify. And there's so many different ways you can diversify in selling on Amazon, whether you can be selling like the same products. Like when I was buying end of line, I'd actually diversify how I'd sell it, where I'd be buying it by the pallets. I would try and sell so much straight away to try and recoup the money. I'd be saving some to wait for like prices to recover after other people would sell out to be making more profit on it. And then I'd be saving some of it for Q4, but you're going to get the maximum profit on it. So I'd actually diversify the sort of selling strategy of the same product. And if you could also do that in multi-packs as well, depending on what you're selling, there's all sorts of different ways you can diversify.
And on it, just getting a sense of kind of off the previous question, the one before the last one, would you say it's easier to start now, or it was easier to start like 5 years ago? I'm curious if there's a concrete side of things from your perspective, being that you've done it for so long.
Like I said, I've not started recently, so so like some things are going to be easier, some things are going to be more difficult. Like 5 years ago, it's probably much easier to make more profits. There weren't as many people doing it, so you weren't going to have if you found a profitable product, you could be selling that on your own for quite a long time before other people might find it as well. Well, now I think it's one thing you posted the other day. Well, the harder something is to find, the better you're going to do with it, because it's more difficult for other people to do.
Yep.
That's one of the reasons why retail arbitrage is often more profitable, because it's more work.
Yeah,
it's more work to do it, so people aren't willing to do the work. So you're going to have like less competition. But like if you're getting something from a deal service, or if you're just using scanning software and using the defaults, everybody else can do that as well. So you're going to get more competition. Your prices are going to come down. So that's one thing. Like I think with any business, you want to try and be different. How can you differentiate yourself from everybody else?
That's sort of like an interesting double-edged sword, though, because obviously there's more competition, but in the same token, information, content, learning things is easier, right?
Yeah, it is.
There's more competition, but if I have a question, I can Google and find the answer in 5 minutes. Whereas before, obviously less competition, but I would imagine it was a bit harder to learn certain things, right? Miles mentioned about the ungating. It took a long time for ungating to be public media, right? Public information, just well-known information. So it's like, it's an interesting kind of paradox there in terms of competition and also just free content available.
Yeah, no, totally agree with you. It's also like with developing software. Like there's a lot of good resources out there now. If you get stuck in a problem, you can do a search, and somebody's probably had that problem before. I remember when I first started developing software. Oh, Jesus, this will be showing my age. You didn't have an internet to search for solutions. You had to pretty work out stuff. But yeah, it's like things get easier. But like, it's a case of fact, things just certainly get easier. And there's one thing I found out at conferences, and this isn't just Amazon, this is like from SEO, affiliate marketing, or whatever. You'd always learn more from talking to like the speakers at the bar than you would from listening to the sessions, because people don't
way more. Yeah,
because people don't share everything in the session and making it completely public. This is like one of the because I used to speak at affiliate marketing conferences in the UK. And one of the reasons I would do that is just so I could get to know other speakers and get to speak to people in the industry. And you learn more that way by sort of speaking with people than you ever will do by sort of seeing what's out there in the public domain.
Yep. And in terms of just having been in the make money online world for a while, I was curious about the point you made earlier in terms of like knowing when people are going to be able to do well, or knowing why, when you see someone who's really successful, understanding why. What are some of the common traits you've just seen over a couple of decades in terms of people that have really had success over the long term with just online business in general?
Ooh, good question. Passion is certainly one of them. and seeing how, like, one of the signs I've always found is when people put entrepreneur in their profile, that probably means they're not.
Yeah, true. I wouldn't even consider reselling entrepreneurship, at least in some cases.
Well, at the lower scale that a lot of people operate at, I wouldn't consider that necessarily entrepreneurship.
It's like, it's so much like just seeing how they can interact with other people and how they actually work. Because like when you're in business, a lot of the time, a lot of what you do is behind the scenes. You don't get rewarded for it. Yep. And if your rewards aren't, if you're just trying to make money sort of now, you need to be looking sort of more longer term. It's like with software. Like, to create software, it's very expensive to create it early on, and like you need to have a plan in the years. Like, you're not going to be profitable from day one. It might take you a year to get to the point to break even, or longer than that to become profitable. And like, one of the nice things with Amazon is you can get going exceedingly quickly. You can be in profit exceedingly quickly. But if you want to make serious money with Amazon, you've got to keep reinvesting and reinvesting. So back to the question, for people I can see, it's how if they're putting work into it without seeing the rewards day in, day out. Because like, you need the passion, but you need to have like the routine and the commitment to doing it. Like, if you just if you're not sort of into it wholeheartedly, you can still make money out of it, but you aren't going to be sort of what I call mega successful with it, unless you are willing to put the work in.
Yeah, and there's so much self-discipline required with the online stuff, right? Like, it's so easy to start, but it's also so easy to quit. No one's going to do it for you. No one's going to make sure you do it. And that's why I do personally just all a few years. I think there's like certain personalities, or just an absorbent amount of free time, or whatever boredom contributes to a lot of it in that regard.
That's it. Because one of the problems with an Amazon business is you're not necessarily creating an asset. You're like, it's very much a cash flow business. Once you stop putting the work in, the cash stops. And like, ideally, you want to be doing something which you can take time off from this business, and it will either keep growing or at least maintain, ideally keep growing. And that's one of the difficulties with an Amazon business, is it's very easy to get sucked into, making loads of money, and you keep doing the same thing and the same thing. And once you stop doing that, the cash stops.
Yeah, and that's why I do, like, it's nice with some of this stuff, right? It's the entry point, and that, like, I don't think I'll be doing this stuff in 10 years, but I know I'll be doing something online business based in 10 years, and I have no idea what that'll end up being. A little hard plug here. So besides getting a free trial at SellerAmp.com, what would be the toolkit for someone who's new getting started today, or just what would you do differently in terms of getting started with Amazon arbitrage? You could go back and get started again today, knowing what you do besides getting SellerAmp.
Actually, this is going back to one of your earlier questions about using a prep center, doing it yourself. One thing I would always recommend if somebody's starting out is start off doing it yourself. Packing boxes, shipping them in. Actually understand the process, understand what's behind the boxes as such. And it's like, if you're going to get VAs, make sure you understand how to source. Don't rely on the VA to understand the sourcing. You need to understand that. So I just answered an earlier question. What was the recent question?
So if you could start again, knowing what you know now, what's like the blueprint besides doing the prep yourself, which I could not agree with more.
Yeah,
I'm on that.
Yes, if it's starting now, I would do as much as I could without getting any subscriptions at all. I'd do it the hard way. I'd use the Amazon Profit Calculator. I'd create my own spreadsheets. Like, the first thing I would get after that would be SaaS, just because like the price. This isn't even just plugging it because it's my software.
I already did.
Like,
make sure everyone watching.
It's like, I as Miles will know, like, I am not a salesperson whatsoever, but I would like create systems like SaaS. The value of it is there. It's pretty obvious. It's like, it's not expensive. It will save you that much money. As soon as you start using it. But like, certainly know your numbers. Because when I sort of started out, there wasn't as sort of much software available, and I knew people that they were selling a decent amount of decent numbers. They're doing like 100,000 a month. And they weren't really making much profit because they didn't know the numbers. They didn't, like, this is like using what's called the EFN, which is a European fulfillment network. They were like stock in the UK, selling it across Europe. but they didn't realise that the fees were so much higher that what they thought was profitable in the UK would still be profitable as they were selling it in Germany, and they weren't. Some of this they were losing money on. So really sort of understand your numbers and like make sure you're actually making profit, because like some people get like. Certainly during Q4, you'll see the big numbers of people doing 100,000, a million a month or whatever, but not all of those are making money, making a profit out of it. Like anybody can sell 1 million a month if you're spending enough on stock.
Yeah.
Actually making profit out of it is the important part of it. I'm not going to go for the cliche like, what is it? Turnover is vanity, profit is sanity sort of cliche, but it's true. It's like, so I do know people which have done it where they get the massive numbers for the screenshots, and then then a couple of months later they're selling training course, and it's like, were you actually making any profit out of that?
So continuing the SellerAmp plug, what is your favorite part of the SellerAmp, and what's probably the most underused part of SellerAmp?
Oh, I love that, and I'm curious the answer because I never heard that. That's a very good question.
One of my favourite bits of it, which is really simple, we had it in there from day one. In fact, it's one of the first things I implemented, was a max cost. And that's basically what is a max cost you should pay to make your return on investment and your profit. Like, well, a girl sort of would call me up to, how much should I spend for this? And it's like, what is the maximum cost you should pay for it? So like, it's just one figure. The equations behind that are quite nasty with all the different tax implications and fees.
Sure. Yeah.
But that one number there,
it makes it a lot easier.
It does. And then it saves so much time away. Instead of having to sort of enter a cost and seeing what your profit would be, if the max cost is like so much lower than what it is on the shelf, that's it. You just move on. You move to the next thing. Because like with SaaS, the questions that we sort of answer is like, is it profitable? Can you sell it? And does it sell? Those are like the 3 questions we try and answer. Like as soon as you get a no to one of those, you move on. So we try and sort of get to the no's as fast as possible.
Oh, that's a good quote.
Yeah, that's a good tweet. We'll probably rip that from the SellerAmp account after this.
like we're experts at saying no. But like, because when you're doing arbitrage, like 90% of the time, what you're looking at isn't suitable. And you want to get past those like 90% to find the profitable stuff. So that the faster you can reject something, the more stuff you can sort of analyze and find something that works.
Well, that's a good answer. And in terms of the most underused feature of SellerAmp, you think? It's
probably tags, where you've got the full history, which is going to be getting a major revamp. So everything that you scan in SellerAmp is in your history, so you can go back to it. And like, one thing I'd always recommend doing is building up a list of replenishables, as it will save you so much time in your sourcing, where you can just replenish. It's much faster to replenish stock than it is to find new stock to buy. So, and actually creating tags for anything really. Like with mine, I would have a replenishable tag so I could sort my history and everything that was replenishable. Creating a tag of like, I'll buy this when it's a 3 for 2 sale or when it's on special offer. Even doing a tag on Lego of when it's going to be end of line. And then so you can either using your tags to organize your history and sort of filter your history, or you can all doing like the Google Sheets export. And like, I must say, I'm a nerd, as you can probably tell. So I like doing formulas and things like that in Google Sheets. I can plot my own graphs and stuff like that. So also being able to, you can export formulas in our sort of Google Sheets, so you can actually export graphs and all sorts of things. But.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't even know about that. A couple of those parts in there, and I was actually just loading up a couple drafts on the SaaS Twitter, so just make sure we got some of those quotes down and everything. And if you have, I'm just curious, like a biggest lesson learned from the past couple of years of doing Amazon that would serve some of the audience well, or something like that.
Learn by doing is probably the best advice I can give. Like, there's lots of information out there, but you'll learn so much more by doing. And like most mistakes that you make aren't fatal.
Oh yeah, no, yeah.
Like,
People are talking
Yeah.
about like risk. I'm like, one, if you're not making much money, your time isn't worth anything anyway. So you need to be experimenting on stuff. And yeah, so many people are looking to get started, and I just tell them like start now because you'll just learn so much quicker, and you'll figure out if it's right for you or not. Because like Amazon isn't going to be right for everyone, but the quicker you get going, the quicker you'll find what is right for you on all that.
Yep.
And that took me like 2 years to figure out on stuff, and everything like that.
yeah. And I'd also say the importance of networking. Like,
Oh yeah.
for most people, the Amazon business isn't going to be your final business. But some of the sort of people, like colleagues and things that you'll meet during this time, yeah, they could go on with you in businesses in the future. And
Yeah.
one of the favorite things I see on Facebook is like people that I've met over the years that have sold their company. Like they get so far and like, yeah, they've done the big sale. And I know a guy now, he's just sort of number of people actually are building their own house. One guy's bought a little space in an island just off Scotland where he's building his own. So it's not even a cottage, it's like an eco house or whatever. And like, I know a guy that sort of, he sold out to Warner, and like he's now started his own record label. And like he started as an affiliate. He was an affiliate doing not cashback sites, but similar to that. But he had various affiliate deals. Then he was really into music. So he started a playlist site when Spotify just first started. And then he sold it out to Warner, and then he sort of had to work for them for a year. But then he's now created a record label, like an independent streaming record label, which I can think of probably a dozen different examples of people that I've met from my affiliate days at different times and what they're doing now, different businesses, like they've either sold one or moved on. And yeah, it's really inspiring to see what other people do. And I can see this now with like people I'm seeing in the Amazon space, or like in 10, 15 years, it'd be really exciting to see what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Well, Al, thanks a lot for coming on. It was a lot of fun and everything like that. It was cool. Maybe we'll run another one back, in 6 months to a year or something like that. Everyone listening, thank you guys for listening as well. We'll be back next Wednesday for another episode. Make sure, show the shirt, get a free trial, selleramp.com, and all that. Subscribe, like, do what you got to do, and see you guys in the next episode.